So my hope is that after 5 years of Keir Starmer and the Labour Party, our youth, and we have the most radically left-wing youth in history here, it's a real challenge for the future, and they're ignorant of history as well, which is why we're having our history rewritten so easily and our past denigrated. My hope is that one of the ways we can get this youth over to the right is to actually have them experience what Starmer is like and realise actually the left isn't what they were sold, because the young of today haven't experienced a Labour government since 2010.
Yeah. And I went around university campuses and did find quite a few young people were right on the reform train. So I think that is already happening a little bit.
Well, more young people voted for reform than voted for the Tories, which is quite interesting. And the most fascinating factor is that more British male youth would vote for Trump over Farage. And that is quite a remarkable statistic.
Trump over Farage? Why?
Well,
they seem sort of aligned in many respects.
I think there are huge differences there, but it was an interesting thing thrown up by polling a few months ago.
It's this is a bit superficial, but it's got to be sort of cool for kids to all get behind something. It's got to be cool, and there's nothing less cool than Tory. The brand Tory, brand Conservative. That's not cool. Reform is a way. I think it's a way for young people to be able to vote. And as superficial as that is, it is. What about on the other side? Every action has a reaction, and I've seen you mention as well, sort of a post-truth right that's sort of burnishing in America right now, and what happens in America. We're downstream of that. What are you concerned about that?
I am concerned of it because I've seen it. I've seen lots of things on X. I'm a free speech absolutist, but I've seen lots of disturbing things on X. I've seen a rehabilitation of Adolf Hitler. I see so many posts now saying, well, he wasn't all that bad. He didn't really mean this. And I've seen so much rampant anti-Semitism. Of course, most of this stuff is coming from America, because if Brits tweeted about this, they'd have a knock on the door from PC Plot. Whereas in America, under the First Amendment, and I'm a free speech absolutist, but you see these characters in America doing it. I am worried about it because I'm happy to have a debate on any topic, but of course, as a historian, it has to be factually based and it has to be accurate. Mm-hmm. And the purveyors of a lot of this information are historically ignorant. Some pose as historians, some claim just to be history enthusiasts, but others are just completely ignorant of the fact. And yet they have huge platforms and huge followings. And it's not good enough to just say, well, I'm just hypothesizing here. You have a responsibility if your platform is that big. You're not just a Joe Blow. If you're saying something, you are an influencer, and you're influencing people who are very naive and ignorant and have grievances and are willing to latch on to things. And I don't like this term woke right at all, because woke is a very specific thing of the left, but I call it post-truth. And it is a post-truth society because, quite rightly, people on the right have a lot of grievances, but they are basically willing to even tear down our heroes if it advances the narrative that they want to advance. And I've challenged people to debates, and I always will challenge, and no one's taken me up on it. I think because these are positions that they know are indefensible, but they get clicks and they get views and they get monetized. And I do actually wonder how sincerely and genuinely a lot of people believe these things, and how much of it is done essentially to get engagement.
That's interesting. I think it's what frustrates me about this is that, you had to qualify by saying you're a free speech absolutist, because that just by you saying that, people will start saying, oh, but what about free speech? And it's a fundamental failure in understanding what free speech is, because at no point did you say, and so they should be locked up.
No, they should be free to say what they want. But I think it behooves other people to be given a chance of reply. Yeah. If you're going to make these arguments, I think if you are a gentleman, if you are a proper, sincere person, you would have a debate about this. If you're so willing to say something so controversial, you must be willing to be challenged on it, because if you're not convinced by something so controversial, perhaps you shouldn't be saying it.
Well, also, that's free speech in itself. Your right to criticize those people for their views. We must remember that, because so many people don't criticize these people's views or anyone in my in-group, because that's, if you criticize them, you're against free speech. I said, no, if you don't want people to criticize, that's being against free speech.
And the moment you try to silence somebody, people will say, there must be something to it, because they don't want this information getting out.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. That's why you mustn't try and
exactly. So you must always, sunlight is always the best disinfectant.
Polish aristocracy, you say? I mean, so Heydel-Mankoo, what's that from?
So my father's Sikh from born in Kenya, and then my mother's Polish ethnic German. They came from Saxony and Thuringia, but then also very married into Poland. We came down in the 1600s with the Elector of Saxony when he became king of Poland, and also Greek grandmother as well. So quite a smorgasbord there. So
you are a smorgasbord.